The answer is it depends, right? I think in general, this philosophy of building products for yourself works great in great many areas in life. It doesn't just have to be videos, right? In
Mhm,
product design, this is an
mhm,
amazing ideology to work with. And in general, that in my experience, the best web apps that I would create would be the web apps that I would use. I would understand the pain points a user would experience.
mhm.
So there would be a shorter feedback loop to
Yeah,
understand what needs to be improved.
yeah, 100%.
I
It's
think
a
it.
delicate balance.
I think it was. I think it was Lee Robin. I'm pulling up the tweet here. Yeah, it was Lee Robinson who said that this is like the era of like personal software, especially with AI, and I think that couldn't be truer, because the amount of I find myself every day, if I have some data source or if I have some information and I'm like, I could automate this.
Mhm,
I have a home built sort of dashboard that's customizable. Sort of think of like a retool type dashboard, and
mhm.
I go into Cursor and I say, hey, make this data source connect with this dashboard, so that way I can provide some sort of actionable insights. And
Yeah.
I think Lee hit it spot on, where it's like it's just for you. It doesn't have to look amazing. It doesn't have to support 10 million users and have pay plans and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
just works.
Yeah, I mean, building those things that solve a very specific problem to you is something Theo does a very good job of. The easiest example of this is the Pick Thing project, which I just recently shipped some code on, where we're making an insane amount of thumbnails, and in all of Theo's thumbnails, he has his face. It's .gg, but he has his face in all of the thumbnails. So I think it's
Yeah,
pick.ping.gg.
there we
There
go.
it is. Um, but like his face is in every single thumbnail. So we need a good way to manage and organize these. So we built this nice little system where we can go in there. We have this giant dashboard, a huge list of Theo faces that I can just scroll through, find the one that fits the right vibe for the video, hit copy, and then just paste it into Affinity Photo, and then I can just make the thumbnail from there. It automatically removes the background, and like all those thumbnails you see right there, a lot of those are ones that I made and I use this tool to make them. Solving those specific problems is very useful. And if you make them good, something I've also realized is that oftentimes we are not as unique as we often think we are, and things that we need and things that help us will often help at least decent number of other people. There are things that are more niche than others, obviously, but there's a lot of opportunity and open ground here to make these nice personal tools.
Yeah, I agree, and I can personally say that the website redesign looks very good, and yeah, I think that's just it. It's something that's helpful for you, as much as we like to think we are, and something I've had to come to terms with very often. We're not that special. We're pretty special. I mean, everyone's special in their own ways, but we're not
Yeah,
that special. And if something works really well for you, it's probably going to work really well for someone else as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
And yeah, that's I haven't tried PicThing yet, but based off the videos and stuff like that I saw, it's funny. I haven't tried PicThing because I have my own process for when I need backgrounds removed and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And it's like, yeah, that problem was solved. And I know people who don't have the infrastructure and stuff like that to sort of run and create those jobs would benefit from PicThing greatly, because
Yeah.
it's so easy. You drag, you drop, it gets downloaded. Boom.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yep. That's exactly it. And the big thing too there is like the background removal, because like I mean, like you said, you have a workflow for that, so great, use that. But most content creators and stuff don't have a nice system for that, and it's an annoying problem. Many times I've gone through and manually removed backgrounds in Affinity. It sucks. I hate doing it. So automating that out is great. Taking your workflow and the things you're making, hyper optimizing them, taking the little rough edges and creating smaller tools for those. It's a great system. It works really well.
Right. That is awesome. And obviously, the newest launch of Theo. Have you had any involvement with T3?
Uh,
T3 chat, that is.
I have not written any code for T3 chat, but I've been around Mark and Theo while they're working on it. and they are pretty much constantly working on that. Basically every single time I'm over there in the last like 2 weeks, they're just sitting there constantly grinding out T3 chat stuff, constantly iterating on that because they've hit something really cool here, and it's working, it's growing, it's doing very well, and they have a real shot at winning here. So I'm it's pretty cool to see something like that catching on so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it looks very inspiring how motivated Theo is on shipping the thing. And I
Mhm.
also believe I saw the tweet the other day from him saying that he shipped more code in 2025 already,
Oh
this
yeah.
February, than he did in 2024, which
Oh,
is
easily.
impressive.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of that too is just like having having the clear and present need of like, okay, I need to build this thing and a very good thing to work on is really, really helpful. That's something I've struggled with is figuring out like, okay, I have this time and I have these skills and I want to do these things, but what the heck do I actually build and make is a tricky thing. And often the solution is the more you build and the more you make, the more things you realize you need to make. And it's just kind of this snowball effect that you just end up making a bajillion things and you have this huge portfolio of stuff and it all works and you're busy, but getting that snowball rolling is very difficult. The very early stages is tough. That I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. That like I think YouTube is a good example of this. That like that small YouTuber hit or even in like a SaaS where you're making like a little bit of money off of it is a very rough place to be. You have a little bit of success, but not the success you want. Figuring out how to get to that next level and keep making stuff is it's very tricky.
yeah, it's not the success for freedom, but it's the success for like where you can't be like, oh, it's not making any money at all. This is just a failure. So
Yeah.
it's like that middle ground for sure.
Yeah, it's a tricky place to be.
Yeah, pulled up on the screen share. The T3 chat is nearing 1% of Claude's traffic, which is that's wow. That's because it's only been about 25 days I think the official
Yeah,
release was,
not even, yeah.
and yeah, 1% is shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. It's just a very good product. They did a very good job of making the best possible experience for this stuff. It's, timing partially because, they timed it with like two big model drops, the DeepSeek moment and the Gemini stuff, both lined up super well here to create big moments for T3 chat and just constantly shipping and iterating and pushing hard on it. It's working and it's really cool to see. I definitely think that they do have a shot on that.
I definitely think this is the best way for him to take advantage of like the AI hype, because a lot of people, when they want to take advantage of the AI hype, they kind of just post and create some ChatGPT wrapper, and it's like, okay, it's kind of good. But I think this was the correct way to do it, where you don't AI saturate your product, but you take advantage of the full force of AI. Because yeah, I mean, like, let me pull it up, but it looks amazing when you go on the site. It's fast. I mean, that's the primary thing, but like when you go and ignore my other prompts, I was doing benchmarking for it, but like yeah, oh my gosh, he's added so many more, but all the
Yep.
experimental models, the premium models, these little
Hmm.
helpful friendly icons, the statuses of each one, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really well done, and yeah.
Yeah, I think figuring out how to use the AI stuff in a compelling way is tricky. If you asked anyone before they saw like if you went back 2 months, and Theo's even talked about this, like if you go back 2 months and ask anyone if T3 chat was a good idea, everyone would say no. Because on paper, it makes zero sense for that to be any good, but just a variety of things lined up and it did end up working really well because it was something that he very directly wanted and they executed very well. They hit the moments really well, the timing was great, and it's good. But I think as far as like building more AI stuff and how to actually use this stuff effectively, there is so much, and I see so much of this stuff. There are so many like tools for building with AI, so many different companies that are like connecting all your different data sources, tools for generating web apps, tools for doing all this stuff. The To use the gold rush analogy here, the like there are so many shovels being built that I think it's going to be very interesting to see like what the actual implementations of those shovels will be. There haven't been a huge at least that I've seen, like Cursor's probably the best example of like a product that uses AI very heavily, but isn't just like a AI plumbing company, if that makes any sense. Because a lot of the problems now are like, okay, how do we fit all these pieces together? I had a thing 2 months ago where we sent out some stuff to some sponsors. We sent it out to 20 different sponsors within our email, and then we needed to transfer all that data over to our Notion. That task, the AIs as they exist right now could absolutely do that task, but I still had to manually do it because the missing piece there is the plumbing. How do we get the data from Gmail into the AI into Notion in the right shape, in the right way? That kind of plumbing problem, the whole, which I guess would be like a GPT wrapper problem, that's what's up in the air, and that's kind of what's up for grabs, and that's something that I very much want to work on and figure out this year.
I think that's great because AI isn't stupid right now. It just doesn't have context. And the more context and the more personalized context an AI has, I've seen it benefit greater. Like I'm working on a little, I'm doing a redesign of the Mandarin 3D site, and with that is sort of this unified chat experience where basically it says, what do you want to do? And it's not going to be a simple GPT-4 plugin. It's going to be able to have actions where you can drop a file into chat and it can take a look at that file visually and get a quote for it. And then if it needs to be something where it's too complex, then it can forward it to me on behalf of the chatbot and says, but the chatbot would say, let me ask my boss real quick, and it would text me. And it's that like integration that I think that's going to be the next step, where it takes
Well, and getting all of that right is going to be very tricky because this is something that I tried out last year. I think it was like early last summer or something, right before the Theo stuff. I tried building out a like true generative like I forget what they called it, but I used the Vercel stuff where you can basically add in more advanced tool calls. It was with their AI SDK. I built a weight tracker app in a chat interface. So you could go into the chat interface and say like, hey, I just benched 225 for 5. I just did 225 times 5 times 5 a bench. You type that into the thing, it'll recognize what that is, pop up some UI that like, okay, great, here's your set already loaded in here, and then you hit great, looks good, and then you save it to your thing. And I thought like, oh yeah, on paper that should be really good, but it ended up actually not feeling that great. And a lot of the feedback I got on that was like people just kind of looking at this empty chat box and they're like, okay, but what can I actually do with this? What tools does it actually have? And it felt like this guessing game of like, okay, we just need to like you're basically just bullying the AI into pulling out the tool calls when those tool calls could have just been a button.
right.
So figuring out a way to almost the way I was thinking about it was like put the AI in the driver's seat. So instead of you having to come up with all the different things on what you want to put into that chat box to say, I did this, I did that, and then the AI figuring out what to give to you, because that puts a lot of the agency onto the person, which typically makes for a worse experience, especially when it's not deterministic like an AI. Rather, it could potentially be better to have an AI put more of the burden of thinking on the AI and create a better user experience that way. I don't know exactly how it looks and how that would work. That's something I need to play with and figure out at some point. But it definitely feels like this whole just putting a chat on everything often doesn't feel that great. I often kind of just want a button and they just kind of work. Figuring out compelling use cases for the AI is definitely one of the trickiest things right now. Because like Cursor, the example from before, really compelling, really great use case, works super well. But like AI for weight tracking, it didn't end up actually feeling that great. So getting that balance will be tricky.
Yeah, I think. Remember the old days, or a while back, the Inkinator stuff, where it was you just press yes or no for basically every question, and it would kind of like guess like that celebrity that you would do. I think. I mean, just thinking now, I was like, it'd be so much easier because the more choices you give an end user, obviously the more confused they're going to be, because if you drop a chat in front of them and say it's infinitely possible, they're not going to interact with it because they can't infinitely interact with it. But if you give it
and that's not what you want.
But if you give them a button and you say, all right, do you want to do this or this? And then on the back end have like a UI or something like that that's powered by those tool calls and takes initiatives.
Yeah.
I think that's the great way to do it, because a chat for the AI that we have right now, other than if you want to chat with it for like business applications, I don't think it's it. Yeah,
It's a tricky use case for sure. Definitely an unsolved problem for sure.
right.